When I hated myself, the thing that I didn't understand is that self love isn't something that you just have, it's something that you earn. And one of the mistakes that I made very early on was assuming that if I just went and talked to myself in the mirror, that somehow my life would get better. And to tell you the truth, it didn't. And it hasn't, and it never will, because that doesn't work. If you hate yourself, and I mean this because some people do, then I think that we have led society in the wrong direction by giving everybody permission to love themselves just because they exist. It doesn't work that way. And you can look at so much of the empirical research that supports this, from the work done by Carl Jung all the way up through Jordan Peterson, love him or hate him, right? So much of what it is that we have to do as the individual to get to this place of loving ourselves is to show up for ourselves. So many of us don't show up for ourselves. We don't show up the proper way in anything that we do. And we're being consumed by this idea that self love is a given gift. Because we exist, we should love ourselves. But guess what? I can tell you this, as someone who has existed for 40 years, I probably have not loved myself for 28 to 30 of those years. And so you look at your life and you're like, well, I don't love myself. This is not working. Everyone keeps telling me I just need fucking words of affirmation and things will be better. And it's not happening. Nothing is changing. And I don't know what to do. Well, I'm going to give you some hopefully helpful advice that will help you figure this out. If you don't know me, I'm Michael Anthony Unbroken. I'm an author, speaker, coach, and podcast host, and I have been where you are. I hated myself for a very long time. In fact, I hated myself so much that, and I've mentioned this before, I felt like taking my life on more than one occasion. I hated myself so much that I couldn't bear my own reflection in the mirror. I hated myself so much that I tried to get validation for my existence from every outside source possible: drugs, money, women, billboards in Times Square, whatever it was. I've hated myself so much that it took me a lifetime to figure out the actual hack to learning to love yourself. And the actual hack to learning to love yourself is not words of affirmation where you stand in front of a mirror. And it's not even necessarily just gratitude, even though that helps a ton. What it is to really learn to love yourself is to accept yourself, to allow who it is that you are to be that person. And most importantly, and this probably carries more weight than anything else, to show up every day and live life on your terms. And that's such a hard idea for most of us to have, because we look at the world and we're like, but aren't I supposed to be rich? Aren't I supposed to be famous? Shouldn't my wife be 6'4" and have big fake boobs? And shouldn't I be jacked in an Adonis of a body and drive a $250,000 car and live in a mansion on a beach? Isn't that the path to I love myself? No, it's not. And that's a fucking lie. The path to loving yourself is you actually doing what you want. Like, it's so crazy to me. Like, I figured this out one day about a decade ago, and I've coached over 3,000 clients. So I've really learned how to understand how to navigate the human experience, both for myself and for them. And I learned this a long time ago, completely by accident, actually, because I was working with one of my clients and I was thinking to myself, there's a path here that I have to help this person uncover. I can't quite find it. What is it? What am I missing? And I realized loving yourself is the same as this journey of healing. And it's doing what you want to do because you want to do it because it's the right thing to do, and not doing what you don't want to do because you don't want to do it because it's the wrong thing to do. Now, right or wrong, this isn't in the scope of how the world views right and wrong, but this is the scope of how you view right and wrong. What is right or wrong for you may not be right or wrong for me. And so it is within our individual power to decide what that means. And once we decide it, the thing that actually starts to happen when we walk that path is we further unlock this thing called confidence. Now, people ask me all the time, how do you build confidence? Confidence is built by continually doing very difficult things over and over and over and over and over and over and over. That's the only way you build confidence. There's no way around it. Like when you first got a bicycle, you fell off that bike. When you first started working, you sucked. When you first started dating, you were horrible. I guarantee that your first kiss was probably trash. And then you practice all of the and above. And one day you get better, and then you start to get okay, and then you get good, and then you get proficient, and then you get mastery. And then on a long enough timeline, you become an expert at that thing. But what most people are not doing because they hate themselves so much is they are not being an expert at their own life. Why are you not being an expert at your own life? What is it that you think that you're going to get from the outside world? From the girl who won't text you back, from the guy who doesn't give you the time of day, from the job that you can't stand? What are you doing? You really have to ask yourself this question. It's like, put on your big girl and big boy pants and make a decision to do the thing that you know in your heart and in your fucking soul that you're supposed to do. Because until you do that, your life is going to stay the same. And that was my experience for a very long time. It was sitting and looking at my life and I'm like, why is nothing working? Why is nothing changing? Oh, because I'm doing the same shit. Right. So great. So now we're in this place where we're in that path and we're trying to understand. Here's where it takes a lot of work, where you have to actually identify the very thing that is the thing that you most desire in this life, outside of the money and outside of success. And if you want fame and fortune, fine. I can promise you it's not going to fulfill you though. Now, I can say that because I've touched a lot of that. Here's what I can add in addition to that. There's no amount on the money on planet Earth that will ever make you love yourself. There's just not. And if that is your aim and that is your goal, you're doomed. You have to understand, like, life is not going to be what you want it to be until you start to accept yourself. And I think we all need to do a better job of that because you're human and you put these standards on you that are impossible to reach. Now, I'm not saying don't have big dreams. You need to have big dreams. You need to stretch yourself. You need to put yourself in this situation where you're staring down a growth trajectory that requires you to be a different person. You need to have that. And the reason why I say you need to have that, because as humans, whether we're men or women, you have to be pulled in a direction that makes your life different. And so getting to this place is like, I need to love myself. I need to love myself. I need to love myself. How do you do it? Well, let's start with first choosing a direction, and then let's move to gratitude. A lot of us are just really, really bad at being grateful for what we have. Again, this is a problem with the world because we have these stupid phones in our hand all day long, and all we see on social media, that person is better than me. Their relationship is better than mine. They have more money than me. They're in better shape than me. Why can't I this? Why can't I that? And we forget to be grateful for what we have. Now, look, I don't mean to not go and pursue big, ambitious dreams, because please go get rich and go get ripped and go have great sex and be in an awesome relationship and have a cool family and drive a badass car and have the home of your dreams with all of the things. But if you can't get there by the path of feeling fulfillment, you're going to waste a lot of time. And that's what so many people do. They're like, I'm miserable and I hate my life. If you're miserable and you hate your life, I can promise you it's because you're not fulfilled, because you're chasing something that is always leaving you empty. The next endeavor, the next career, the next partner, the next vehicle, the next whatever. And look, I'm guilty of this too, by the way. I wrote a list at the beginning of this year of the things that I'm not going to do. And I said, I'm not going to buy toys. I'm not going to buy clothes. I'm not going to buy things that I don't need. I'm going to only focus on the bare minimum. And the reason why is because, to tell you the truth, and this is a me thing, I've been living in a little bit too much excess over the years. And part of that is because I can, right? I've earned it. I've worked very, very hard to have a good life. And the other part of it is because I felt like if I have some of these things, life will be better. And there's some cool things I've been able to do, but I can tell you at the same time, there's a lot of things I wish that I wouldn't have done, things we'll get into over the coming episodes in this year. But what I will leave you with here today, because I really want you to think about this, is if you're hating yourself, why aren't you doing things that bring you fulfillment? Because I will promise you, it's probably that thing that you used to do when you were a kid that just made you so happy that we just lost track of. Because as adults, we've been told, don't have fun. Chase the career, chase the money, buy the house, travel when you're retired. I say, fuck that. Go and be fulfilled today. I don't know what that looks like for you, but one of the best ways to do it is you grab this thing right here called a pen and a piece of paper and your journal, and you write and you figure yourself out. That's what you need to do. If you want to change your life, you figure yourself out today. And if you need support, someone like a coach or a mentor, go to michaelunbroken.com. I have tons of stuff there that you can learn more about. But I would tell you the best thing that you can do is coach yourself first, is to sit in this life that you have created and ask yourself, is this the life I really want moving forward? Because if the answer is no, you got work to do. If the answer is yes, honestly, you're probably not listening to this fucking podcast anyway. That said, my friend, thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I'll see you tomorrow, and be unbroken.